When it comes to health and well-being, I regularly talk about the fact that there are so many alternative modalities that can be supportive and helpful for your overall health and well-being journey. And one of the beautiful things that I get to do is talk to amazing practitioners about their specialty so that you can learn more. And today I am talking with Dr. Louis Jin, and we are going to be discussing traditional Chinese medicine. For those of you who are not familiar with it, this is a philosophy of medication that looks at the body in a very different way. I am excited to learn more. Dr. Lewis, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mira. Thank you.
And
Thank. Mhm.
oh, sorry, no, go ahead. You were
Yeah. I was just gonna thank you for having me here, and thank you for the invitation. Yes, I would gladly to explain a little bit about the wonders of traditional Chinese medicine here today.
And, I think one of the things that I love is that traditional Chinese medicine, from the tiny bit that I've learned about it from you and your clinical partner, Dr. Belinda, does not mean that we can't do all the other things. It's simply another layer to the work that you're doing to address the body in a different way.
Indeed. So the traditional Chinese medicine, sometimes you could see this word as abbreviated as TCM, stands for traditional Chinese medicine. It's an ancient modality of systems of energy balancing, um, healing that's derived from, of course, the Chinese culture, hence called traditional Chinese medicine. It relatively formed about 3,000 years ago.
Wow.
But the source, of course, in the middle of China, at that time called Middle Kingdom, thinking that it was the middle of the earth.
Mm,
So therefore, the middle becomes one of the key words here. Zhong is the Chinese variation zong, so it stands for middle, and the medicine is called yi, so zong yi, so middle medicine, right? Middle kingdom's medicine. So that will play a part because everything in traditional Chinese medicine views the body and the nature as one, and we're
mm,
trying to balance everything right according to the nature.
mm.
So we have this concept of wellness in balance with energies in the body, traveling in different lines called the meridians. The
Mm,
meridian systems are kind of like the on the mapping system, the longitudes, right? So different vertical lines that traverse in our body, yet it's invisible to our naked eye.
mhm.
So ancient sages of Chinese physicians have noted the specific phenomena happening in those areas of pathways that they categorize as energy, right? Vitality,
Right.
something of movement, of flow, energy flow. So right now, the current translation of the word chi, chi, or sometimes alternatively spelled as qi, basically represents as energy to our contemporary audience that we
Mm,
cannot see but we can feel. We cannot measure under a microscope or MRI machine, yet we can feel. Those are some of the indicators that will contribute to the modern understanding of etiology, disease, how they come about, where they are, how they progress, and how they get better. So the
mhm.
Chinese medicine, in part, does that in 3 to 4 different ways. So the main way for traditional Chinese medicine is known as acupuncture, where it's an external stimulation. The acupuncturists typically are licensed practitioners of needlings. They will be able to insert specific tiny little metal made needles inside our
Mhm.
body, usually at the body surface initially, then sometimes can go a little deeper into the muscular, the nerves, even into the bone and bony surfaces, membranes, to
Mhm.
treat various ailments that are accompanied through whether it's a physical trauma, whether it's a pain, chronic pain, whether it's internal organ dysfunctions, some
Mm-hmm.
things that are connected to the meridians in those energy pathways, along with specific organs in our viscera, right? Our vital organs, our supporting organs. So it's a structural change and functional change, but it's
Mm-hmm.
non-invasive in that acupuncture is not an injection. We do
Mm-hmm.
not inject any substance into the body. It's a
Mm-hmm.
physical manipulation of mechanical stimulation, sometimes with electrical help, right? We sometimes do hook up to electric apparatus like TENS unit to increase the blood flow or increase the movement, but
Mm-hmm.
most likely it's just manual stimulation to enable the body heal itself. So
Yeah,
that's really the main thing about TCM is the acupuncture is most well known and most well studied here in the West for the last
sure.
30 years. The other pillars are more relate to the holistic health of the body, right? We talk about nutritional supplementation, like
Mm.
in what you do here, doing advocacy for nutrition and food, ingredients and label reading. The Chinese way
With
of, yes,
Chinese, sorry, I'm just
yeah, no
curious. So
problem.
with Chinese medicine, my understanding is that the supplementation is primarily food-based. So you're using herbs and teas and things like that. Is that correct?
Correct. That's the second the pillar I was about to touch is that the internal medicine, right?
Mm,
In the Western conventional model, we know, of course, we have pharmaceuticals and the necessary medications that we can take. Hopefully, mostly in the emergency, in a pinch, right? We're not taking that
right,
long term. Of
right.
course, there are some vital things that a chronic patient will need to take in order to sustain life, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. But this is another way of Chinese herbal medicine. We call it CHM, short for Chinese herbal medicine, or it's
Okay,
a study of herbs called Chinese herbology. So
okay.
trained practitioners of Chinese medicine, typically they have a great understanding of the pharmaceutical effects of these
Mm,
herbs derived in nature. We're using them as botanicals, right? They're, of course, most of them are natural and non-animal related.
mm-hmm.
Occasionally, in the past, in ancient times, of course, before the current environmental crisis that we have on the world, over different things that we do to our animals, um, before we were able to use some of those animal parts. Of course,
Mm,
nowadays it's been banned for many years on some precious animal bones that we use. But we
sure.
still use some minerals in our botanicals, but mostly plant-based. So
Mm,
ingest certain medicinals from these roots or flowers or
mm-hmm.
petals. Then we grind them up into teas, powders, or different forms that we can ingest. Put them in a capsule, um, put them as a paste externally, and use as medication, right?
Mm,
Alternative to medications. So typically, they are, when they're prescribed by a licensed and certified herbalist, you are under the care of someone who understands any adverse effect that may come, any
sure.
interactions that a patient may be taking a medication, and then they want to try these natural alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, this is the second pillar. So Chinese herbs or
And
natural
and
remedies.
and I just want to say I appreciate that thought because I think there are a lot of people who have a misunderstanding that if it comes from a plant, it's totally safe. And the truth is that even plants and minerals and things like that can disagree with the body. And so it needs to be administered carefully and monitored. We don't just take them willy-nilly because they're available over the counter or because we think it's plant safe.
Right. And then, so besides, so we talk about the main external therapy of Chinese medicine, the acupuncture, the internal medicine, the Chinese herbal supplements or herbal
Hmm.
remedies. Of course, that also includes some of that herbs can be used as food, right? We talk about
Right.
use as medications because they have medicinal properties, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of more herbs that are used as foods that we eat every day, like the vegetables and salad that we enjoy. So
Hmm.
there's the combination of those are can be taken in larger quantities with lesser side effects. and cook certain way can
Sure.
dictate how our body react to things, right? Typically, we talk about down the line, if I have time, we can delve into those different properties of herbs, right?
Hmm.
Some are warmer in nature, some are colder in
Sure.
nature, some are neutral. So then, based off a constitution approach from a doctor, a Chinese medicine doctor, who will look at your tongue, who will feel your pulse at your checkups, they can kind of tell what your body is like constitution wise.
Hmm.
Is it a hot body to start off? Is it a cold body? Is it intertwining hot and cold symptoms? So then you can use these specific properties of herbs or foods to
Right.
help adjust and regulate the body. So
Hmm.
basically using those specific warm herbs or foods to help revive a colder person and vice versa. So that's another way of treating the patient based
Hmm.
off their constitution. Now, the final point about Chinese medicine, besides those two therapies I just mentioned, is a self-awareness, self-healing abilities to be cultivated by mind-body movements. So we call these meditations, mindfulness, of course, in the West here, but in Chinese medicine, it's called Qigong, Qigong, which is the work of Qi, right? Remember, we talk about Qi as energy. So basically,
Right.
this is called exercise or work for energy, to gain more energy, to move certain energies certain ways. So there's specific breathing exercises people can do and practice. There's specific stances, and they're very close aligned to a lot of the Chinese kung fu and martial arts that you see
Mm.
also.
Yeah.
Then, besides the qigong aspect, breathing part aspect, it's mostly just more of a routine-based wellness principles that we talk about
Hmm.
health preservation, right? So there are certain tips and strategies that we can kind of extract from these ancient classics of Chinese medicine for prevention. Before you get pain, before you get a chronic condition, how do you prevent to get from there, right? How do you become being somebody who is well in general and keeping it well? So there's different methods that you can utilize all three things: acupuncture, herbs, or qigong, or in any ways or combinations to achieve the end goal of having health and wellness.
So it's a whole body system and just breaking it down a little bit differently with a different kind of focus in terms of some of the external things or how you might add things to the body to balance the constitution, which I think is kind of fascinating. I'm a little curious about what you look at on somebody's tongue. Like, how does the tongue determine the state of the body?
So in general, a good acupuncturist will be able to check the patient's tongue almost every time they see them. Of course, the tongue do change over time. It's not very quick. So we
Mm,
mostly, the practitioners focus on several layers of the tongue anatomy. Usually the frontal tip of the tongue relates to the mind and the physical heart organ, right? So the
mhm,
circulation, the cardiovascular health. Then the sides are mostly looking at emotional driven linked organs, such as the gallbladder on one side and the liver on the other side. Those
mm,
play roles dominant specifically to how our emotions impacted by stress, by hormonal fluctuations, by certain biochemicals that we have in our body. Then
right.
the root of the tongue, the throat area, relates mostly to our energetics, mostly
Mm,
fostered by our kidneys. And then the middle of the tongue, the groove, is where we kind of pay attention to if there's any coating, any fur, they call that, right? Are they thick? Are they thin? What color they are? Are they geographic? Are they peeling? Those things mostly relate to our digestive system, our
mm.
gut issues, our intestines, our spleen, which is a major organ actually that the current, the traditional care, the conventional medicine does not
Western
pay
medicine doesn't pay a lot of
too
attention
much
to the
attention
spleen.
to
Yeah.
in relation to digestion. Really, only Eastern medicine, traditional Chinese medicine acting and then having the spleen organ encompassing the entire transformation mechanism, which includes the digestion and
Right.
absorption of nutrients, and then transportation mechanism, which is
Hmm.
moving them out to specific areas of need in our body. So all
Hmm.
those organs, specific functions on the tongue can be revealed at once. Of course, they will change slowly if they follow the plan of the doctor. The doctor will be
Right.
able to find what kind of deficiencies they have, what kind of excess they have, if they have a heat pattern, if they have a cold pattern. Then from that, in conjunction with some other readings, sometimes we also read their eyes, orbitals, sometimes we read their facial structures, sometimes we also need to feel their pulse. That's another big component of pulse taking. We don't
Hmm.
just, the Chinese medicine doctors typically don't just check for the heart rate. Okay, you can do
Hmm.
heart rate by just doing a blood pressure monitoring test. It will show you the heart rate. But
Sure.
besides the heart rate, there's 24 different patterns that you can also detect from a Chinese medicine standpoint.
Wow.
Even a pulse called a pregnancy slippery pulse. In ancient China, when you go to if you're if you're a Chinese physician that works for the higher hierarchy, right, for the government, for the palace, the emperor's palace, they will actually ask you to check if the any of the maids or any of the females in the palace are about to be pregnant. So you can go do that by checking the pulse. There's a specific
Wow.
pattern related to the pregnancy. So you can forecast that without going to an ultrasound or going to a doctor. They can see that, oh, there's something coming. So it's very interesting. And it's, of course, takes years experience to accumulate the
Sure.
accuracy. But even the acupuncturists in general, they definitely need to check those pulses because they
Mm.
will change variably during the time of day, during your energetics, during your menstrual
Right.
cycle for females. So then they can show the doctor, okay, this meridian, this organ is kind of weak. We need to do something about this. Or this organ has a lot of blood flow stagnation. It's not going through. Then we need to increase the blood flow. So those are the
Sure.
two main diagnoses: the tongue and the pulse that a Chinese medicine doctor uses as tools to assist the constitution of a patient.
Well, this has been a fascinating look at a totally different viewpoint for looking at the body. And I really thank you for educating us on the four different pillars of traditional Chinese medicine so that we can understand them better, and also learning about some of the different ways that you can diagnose what's going on with someone. For anyone who wants to learn more, I will put a link. Dr. Lewis is located in Texas. He and his clinical partner, Dr. Belinda, are in the Woodlands, Texas. I'll put their link down below if you want to reach out to learn more or to connect with them. And in the meantime, in all you do, please remember to make today a healthy day. Bye, folks.